Let's get into some Rotoworld headlines. Plenty of action around the rest of the NFL. And we'll start with Mecole Hardman with an abdomen injury officially placed on IR. Opens up an interesting situation in Kansas City here, Barry, at wide receiver, as Mecole was kind of on a hot stretch there. Juju Smith-Schuster, where does he come into the week in your rankings?
I have Juju at wide receiver 13, again, but that's assuming he plays, and at the moment, it doesn't look like he's going to play. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't – you have to rank him until he's definitely not playing, but the fact of the matter is that, to me, this is more of a Kadarius Toney conversation. If Juju Smith-Schuster is active, you're starting him. But it feels like, you know, when you've seen players in the concussion protocol, it feels like, you know, they've returned to practice, they're doing individual drills, they're off to the side. We've seen none of that so far from Juju Smith-Schuster. So we'll see what happens today, where this broadcast is, where it's 12:18 on a Friday. So we haven't got any reports yet on what Juju's doing or if he's doing anything at all at practice yet today. But to me, I think this is a much more interesting Kadarius Toney conversation, because we always say in terms of fantasy success, it comes from two things for me, and two things really only: talent and opportunity. Yep. And we know Kadarius Toney's talent, right? That's not the question. The issue was, how much opportunity would he get in Kansas City given all the mouths to feed? Well, if Mecole Hardman's on the IR, if Juju Smith-Schuster is out due to the concussion, all of a sudden there's a lot of opportunity against a Chargers defense that is one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. So the versatility of Kadarius Toney, I think, comes into play here. Obviously, the good pass catching, 44% of the snaps last week. My expectation is that if Juju, and we know Hardman's going to miss, but if Juju also misses, I could see him playing 60, 65% of the snaps in what is one of the highest scoring games, or expected to be one of the highest scoring games in the NFL, right? I'm in on Kadarius Toney, who's currently my wide receiver 36. MVS is wide receiver 38. If Juju is ruled out, both guys would move up into, Kadarius Toney would be easily top 25, probably borderline top 20, and MVS is, probably around 30.
All right, Jay, while the Chiefs deal with their fair share of injuries, it looks like the Cowboys are starting to get healthy. Ezekiel Elliott has been practicing this week. How do you think that return, even if it's not 100% Zeke, and he's kind of been dealing with something for a couple of years now, impacts Tony Pollard, who has probably been winning people their weeks for about a month now, it feels like.
Yeah, not well. And it shouldn't be the case. Tony Pollard should be the guy in Dallas. I think just the overwhelming evidence now suggests that is what it should be, that he should be getting the bulk of the carries, but he's not going to get the overwhelming share if Zeke is healthy. So obviously you have to knock Pollard down, but I think we're at the point now where you'd still rather start Pollard over Zeke, with Zeke managing this injury. He was managing injuries all of last year as well. So I think that Pollard is the guy that you want. It's just obviously he's not going to be a top 10 running back if Ezekiel Elliott is there taking away carries from him. I do think also relevant, not as much from a fantasy perspective, but Anthony Barr, Anthony Brown, those guys are coming back, which is going to help that defense, which is going to help Dallas, which is going to put Dallas in situations where they can run the ball more. So that will help Pollard and Zeke.
Barry, you hit the hydration station for the quads.
I did.
Feeling better.
Wouldn't worry about you.
I was. No,
you powered through, though, which was impressive. Did. You could have just stopped.
I could have, but I didn't. Yeah. Because that's not.
It's like Derrick Henry last night. Those 28 carries, 3 yards per carry. Just kind of keep on grinding.
Just keep going.
Yeah. Keep getting
Might not be the prettiest.
Yards.
I'm not the most efficient, but I am a volume-based guy.
You're a workhorse.
Pretty much in everything. I'm a workhorse. I'm a work. It's not the most efficient takes,
you're Najee
but
Harris.
it's a ton of takes. I am.
Backhanded compliment.
Trent Richardson.
Yeah. Trent Richardson.
Yeah, exactly.
Do some work out of the backfield.
Yeah, I tell my wife all the time, listen, I'm not going to be the most efficient here, but, volume-based here. That's what it's to be volume-based. Just, absolutely.
Once the wife gets brought up, Jay and I just go dead silent.
Yes,
We're like, you know what? But in all seriousness, how do you rank both of these guys this weekend? I think that's what everyone's wondering.
Yeah. Look, I think Tony Pollard is, until further notice, right? You prefer Pollard to Ezekiel Elliott. He looks like the better running back.
Is there a wide margin, though?
Right. I currently have Pollard at 15. I have Zeke at 25. The positive reports on Zeke health-wise will move him up. I think they'll be a little bit closer. He's had at least 15 touches, Zeke is. At least 15 touches in 5 of the 7 games that he's played so far this year. So, again, there's a floor there with Ezekiel, and when they get close, he's likely getting the ball. Having said that, I think Pollard's more explosive, and if you think about this Vikings defense, where they have been good for much of the year is in terms of running up. They've been really good in terms of run defense, right, for much of the year. They've suffered a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but generally speaking, they've been pretty good in terms of defense. I mean, whatever. Singletary scored the 2 against them, and Washington.
Dealing with Josh Allen in general.
Yeah, right. But where they've struggled this year is on the edges, and so they have been one of the better run defenses for the overall season, but they've been one of the worst defenses in terms of pass catching, receptions, and receiving yards allowed to opposing running backs. So I feel like Pollard, because he's more explosive, because he's more involved in the passing game, hopefully as well. I have Pollard at 15. I have Zeke at 25. I think it's viable to play both guys in what should be a high-scoring game.
One more injury update here that's a big one. Gus Edwards been dealing with the hamstring, on track, Jay, to return to a vulnerable Panthers run defense.
Yes, vulnerable, but I don't really want anything to do with his backfield between the rejuvenated Kenyon Drake and his 24 carries against the Saints. Justice Hill still lingering on Lamar Jackson runs the ball as well. So, look, I think that Gus Edwards is probably the guy that you want if he's starting and healthy, but you don't feel great about it because of Kenyon Drake. And at the same time, they are 13-point favorites, so someone's going to produce. It's just a guessing game, and you lose every time.
And that's the point to me. I'm at running back 27. Look, he's not involved in the passing game. Here's a little bit of touchdown dependent, but Carolina over the last 4 weeks allowing the 6th most rushing yards per game to opposing running backs. Positive game script should be there for Gus Edwards. So, again, I think he's a viable flex this week at running back 27. Lower, but, I think if you're desperate, you could do worse than Gus Edwards.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the, autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay? Respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.